Good morning, Accordia. I would like to welcome you all to the INEC Killarney to TUI Congress 2024. TUI delegates from all parts of Ireland, guests, local, national and international, and members of the media who are present. I genuinely hope you all enjoy, learn and get value from the debates and the information shared. I also hope you enjoy especially the important social aspects of Congress over the next few days. As we gather here today for our annual Congress, I'm compelled to address the somber realities that persist in our world. Wars in Ukraine and Gaza have cast a long shadow, affecting millions of lives, particularly those of innocent children. These young souls caught in the crossfire endure most of the cruelty of the conflicts. In Ukraine, the invasion has exacted a devastating toll. Children have lost family members, fled their homes, witnessed unimaginable horrors. The trauma they endure will echo for decades, affecting their development, mental health and physical well-being. In Ireland, we play our small part in mitigating the effects by welcoming over 15,000 students from Ukraine into our schools. Meanwhile, in Gaza, 14,000 children have already perished. Countless others are injured, and their education has been completely disrupted. The relentless bombing continues. Humanitarian aid has been reduced to a trickle, leaving children starving, ill and deprived of clean water and sanitation. Famine looms. This has grim resonance for Irish people. The basic human rights we take for granted of life, health, education are tragically denied to them. As we convene to share knowledge and insights, let us remember these young souls especially. For their sake, let us advocate for peace, for their right to safety, for a world where no children face the horrors of war. Together we can be their voice, their hope, and their chance for a brighter tomorrow. Keeping this in mind, we want a unified message to come from the TUI Congress. The President will tell you more about this approach later in Congress. I will now offer some reflections based on the TUI's annual report and the activities of the Union since we met in Cork last year. The annual report gives an account of the Union's work and achievements and sets out engagements conducted with several government departments, a variety of agencies, stakeholders, other education trade unions, and other participants in the wider education sector throughout 2023 on behalf of TUI members. The TUI, after a ballot of members, has approved acceptance of the new Public Service Pay Agreement 2024 to 2026, with 82% of members voting to accept the agreement. On Monday, the 25th of March, the Public Service Committee of the Irish Congress of Trade Unions ratified the Public Service Pay Agreement by the aggregate vote of the ballots of the 19 affiliated public service unions. The new agreement will cover the period from the 1st of January 2024 to the 30th of June 2026. There were sizable majorities in favour of the new pay agreement in most unions. The new agreement marks the end of an era of industrial relations conducted under the terms of the financial emergency measures in the public interest legislation, what we became known as FEMPI. This was introduced initially during the financial crash of 2009. Unions had sought the full and final unwinding of this legislation in these negotiations to re-establish normal industrial relations processes and procedures. We must be vigilant here and be clear of our view of normal, which may be different to the government department's view. Most currently working in government departments have only ever operated under FEMPI, and it will be a job of work to change that mindset. The pay agreement benefits public servants commencing with a pay increase of 4.25% this year, half of it to be paid from the 1st of January 2024. Overall, the pay increases under the agreement come to 9.25%, which after compounding will amount to 9.6% paid by June 2026. If inflation continues its downward trajectory, then in general this will mean real pay increases for our members. The pay proposal is estimated to be worth 17.3% for lower paid public sector workers because of the flat rate elements of the pay deal, which are worth more to public servants below 50,000 per annum. This will narrow the gap between high paid and lower paid public servants. Other than minor claims, unions will not be able to lodge any cost increasing claims for improvements in pay or conditions during the lifetime of the agreement. The specific provision of local bargaining will allow trade unions to negotiate up to an additional 3% of pay costs, inclusive of all allowances for grades, groups or categories of employees. Detailed arrangements for the local bargaining and the initial 1% pay under bargaining are to be agreed by the 30th of June this year, with local negotiations to take place between July 2024 and June 2025, with agreements secured to the greatest extent possible through direct negotiations. In some local bargaining areas, we will be the only representative union, but in others we will share this negotiating forum. For the TUI to make informed decisions, precise costings will be needed before we enter any local bargaining. The options available will then have to be considered by the executive during the local bargaining process. Area representatives will keep branches informed and receive feedback on any proposals through the branch structure at the appropriate times. It is important that during Congress, our negotiating position is not tied, and the TUI is able to achieve the most beneficial outcomes for our members. It's worth noting that some of the motions on pay that are being presented to Congress were written before this agreement was negotiated and may have been overtaken by events. Please keep this in mind in the upcoming debates. The agreement does not preclude small claims, and importantly, it does not define what the word small means in monetary terms. Going back to the sectoral bargaining process under Building Momentum, we secured payment of the PME allowance to post-2012 new entrants. In effect, second-level teachers use their own money to solve this long-running sore. The remaining third of the 1% is still available to resolve outstanding issues or to be used as a general pay increase. As you are aware, and as outlined on page 12 of the new public service agreement, we managed to get the long-standing environmental allowance claim solved effective from the 1st of January 2024 for our members who are working as teachers in Portlaoise Prison. However, the backdated payment of this allowance to an earlier date would involve the use of a small proportion of the remaining sectoral bargaining fund from Building Momentum. In May 2022, the TUI offered a proportion of the sectoral bargaining fund to restore incremental credit date, which was lost to our ASDI colleagues because of their industrial action in 2016 that constituted a repudiation of the national agreement at the time. The TUI, as you are aware, made this offer in the context of the formation of a new amalgamated union. This offer has led to ongoing discussions with the ASDI in relation to amalgamation and unity. As well as funding this offer to the ASDI, a proposal made by the TUI could mean that the money, 1/3 of 1%, would be available from the 1st of February 2023 as a general pay increase. This proposal is still awaiting a final costing from the Department of Public Expenditure and Reform. If this proposal is approved, we can solve the incremental credit issue for ASDI colleagues, the back money for the environmental allowance, and have a general pay increase delayed by just 1 year for all members from the 1st of February 2023. As outlined last year, the initiative taken by the TUI was to give impetus to the talks on amalgamation, a long-standing TUI policy. Amalgamating the TUI and the ASDI is the right thing to do. It is worth the generosity. It's worth the effort for the prize of a bigger, stronger union with a bigger voice, which will have more power and say. We will work hard to achieve this long-held TUI ambition. The President will update Congress later in terms of the next steps in the process. But personally, having taught in a dual union school, I have believed in this for all my teaching and all my trade union career. The TUI has an ambitious vision to create a strong TU sector, to develop and build on the strength and traditions and achievements of our members in the higher education sector. But this vision to be achieved, there must be full commitment by the government, by DFERIS, by the HEA, by the HEI management, and by TUI members themselves to create a distinctive TU sector. DKIT and IADT must be included in this evolution. Given the need for this cohesion and direction, it was disappointing, to say the least, that industrial action had to be initiated by the TUI members to make progress in working with MTU management to facilitate consultation on issues in MTU. We hope this is now close to a resolution. A national ballot of TUI members at third level also had to be undertaken in relation to DEPR's decision to pay administrative grades and academic staff with similar levels of responsibilities different rates of pay. Rates of pay that are lower than the rates paid to staff in similar roles in TU Dublin. No rationale or explanation was given for the differential other than a general statement that it was up to DEPR to determine rates of pay for higher paid public servants. This numbskull economics must end. If there is to be a grading structure of any kind, there needs to be a clear rationale established by consultation with the TUI. We are the only union that represents academic grades. Relying on DEPR's unilateral assessment is not sufficient or acceptable and would lead to rapid loss of terms and conditions in the sector and diminution of the sector's vision. This will eventually be detrimental to all concerned. As is widely known, there are significant backlogs in the apprenticeship system at the precise time that the country needs the skills concerned. The solutions agreed to deal with the apprenticeship backlog, first at phase 2 and laterally at phase 4, are an example of what can be achieved when there is consultation and meaningful engagement with this union to solve an issue. The TUI agreed to help with the phase 2 backlog from January of this year in return for funding and flexibility in meeting the additional demands. The agreement resulted in commitments that will be no longer, that there will be a guarantee of no outsourcing, and that TUIs will be the sole provider for phase 4 and phase 6. 17 million in additional funding was given on top of the funding for each of the intake of apprentice students. This resolution was worked out by the TUI in conjunction with SIPTU, DFERIS, the HEA and Solace. Minister Harris committed to the formation of a high-level labour employer economic forum to deal with apprenticeships, a LEAF. TUI has secured one of the 4 labour positions on the new LEAF. TUI has now been asked to help deal with the current phase 4 backlog by producing extra capacity in the sector. This secures apprenticeships in our TU sector. The TUI has agreement that undertaking the additional work will be voluntary for our members, and additional payments will be made for the work at rates that make the work attractive. We also secured a commitment that all our members must be treated the same across the full sector. The announcement of a new tertiary education course at the end of the last academic year took the TUI by surprise. In spite of the fact that we had been repeatedly promised by Minister Harris and his department there would be no surprises. The lack of consultation on the introduction of these new pathways, which involved joint delivery by ETBs and the higher education sector, was astounding, as the TUI was the only union involved across both sectors involved. In response, the TUI had to lodge the same grievance about the rollout of the proposed courses with each of the relevant employers, both in the ETBs and the higher education institutes. This resulted in high-level negotiations. The negotiations concluded with the required guarantees being secured by the union in relation to the terms and conditions. However, we must be vigilant. Adherence to the guarantees by ETBs and the HEIs needs to be monitored locally. TUI agreed to cooperate with the pilot after the Minister committed publicly to what the TUI had requested. The TUI recognises these alternative pathways into higher education are valid pathways and lead both to future opportunities for learners and the development of a further education base. Alternative pathways into tertiary education chime with our commitment to local and regional educational opportunities, which can especially facilitate students coming from our DESH schools. However, standards and access arrangements must be agreed with us. The terms and conditions of our members must always be protected, and there must be parity of esteem for the various pathways with the required resources and investment. The pilot will be reviewed regularly throughout the implementation phase. It will need to be, as the tendency of some ETBs is to lose the run of themselves. Some of these troubled, addicted outliers recurringly contrive to muddy the waters in relation to joint delivery models. This is not helped by the kind of local delusional empire building that we have witnessed around the grandiose but nebulous concept of an FET College of the Future. Nobody knows what a further education college of the future looks like. Some people assume it's a building, maybe it's a plane, maybe it's a bird, I don't know. It's spoken of all the time with no clarity of what it is or what it's to become. In this vacuum, some of our ETBs are puffing hard and getting high on their vision of what a college of the future is. This is no way to be serious about what is the future of further education. For further education to be successful, there must be parity of esteem across the sector within all our ETBs. The quality of and the structures for this education service must be similar in all ETBs and must be developed in consultation with us, with the TUI at local and, where appropriate, national level. If members feel that something is afoot or amiss in their ETB, they must be ready to act and act swiftly. Part of the problem, of course, is that too often the experts, our members in the various further and adult education services, have been treated with scant respect. The long-running story of adult education tutors and finalising their terms and conditions has been fraught with difficulties and with inexcusable delays. Despite a chairman's note from pay agreements, a Labour Court recommendation, despite the support of the Minister and his department, the Department of Public Expenditure and Reform delayed the approval of the offer that was so keenly awaited. Then other issues emerged which has to be dealt with. However, I'm delighted to say those issues have now been sorted. The text of a final agreement was published last week, finally giving certainty to this group of members who have spent an age on the margins. Potentially this is an agreement to build a future for this grade. I would like to thank all those involved for their persistence and endeavour in reaching this outcome. Youth Reach members have for many years outlined at Congress the lack of recognition of their valuable work with some of our most vulnerable students. Delays in processing legitimate claims and other industrial relations issues are frustrating for all involved. A frustration made worse by a litany of lame excuses for these delays from the department. Colleagues, as the world and its uncle knows, the TUI had warned over several years that there were severe recruitment and retention issues building in the system. The TUI has made suggestions over the years as to how to alleviate this problem. The reduction of the PME from 2 years to 1 year would have an immediate impact, as also would be circular letters on incremental credit for post-primary teachers to help bring our teachers home from serving abroad. The payment of allowances for SEN qualifications, teaching through Irish and Ireland allowances may also help in the recruitment and retention of teachers in these areas, which was abolished by the government in 2012. The various training and retraining initiatives are welcome as they help provide additional teachers where qualified teachers are scarce. The TUI has noted an increase in the teachers who are now teaching out of field to fill holes in the system. The lack of substitutes in our schools is a chronic problem. The use of student teachers at all levels is supplying much needed help in this area. However, it's noteworthy that this effectively reduces the PME from 2 unpaid years to 1, with no adverse effect on the quality of teaching. Why not bite the bullet and turn it back to 1 year? The additional 140 paid The additional 140 paid substitution hours available to serving teachers is helping, but the cost of adding to the considerable workload of these teachers who are time poor to begin with. The failure of some schools to implement these alleviation measures correctly is also causing us problems. In our pre-Congress survey of post-2011 teachers who entered the profession, only 12% were offered a permanent position. 88% were not. Only 35% received a contract on full hours. 65% did not. This is a scandalous statistic in the teeth of a recruitment crisis. 20% took 3 years to get a contract on full hours, and 34% took longer. What is expected of these teachers? These teachers will wait around at management's beck and call to make up time as substitutes. The idea that they can eat these false promises is not acceptable. These teachers are forced to get additional part-time jobs, summer jobs, moonlight to make ends meet. These are rational young men and women who will make rational choices and leave. Where they go, the pay and other conditions are better. Even the weather is better. Why would they stay to endure both poverty and disrespect? They are not abandoning Ireland. Ireland more specifically, and the Department of Education, and deeper, have abandoned them. We need to give these graduates full-time jobs now, from day one, to have any hope of keeping them as teachers. Other jurisdictions are recruiting aggressively. Just go to any careers fair in a HEI. Giving full-time jobs ahead of the effective commencement dates in October for the following September. Why are we not able to compete with these jurisdictions? Our children suffer because of the failure of the relevant government departments to engage with reality. They do not have subject teachers. Sometimes they don't have any teacher. Subjects are lost, life opportunities dwindle. The serving teachers are required to take up the slack, which makes the job too damn hard. So we retire early or leave the profession. The departmental ducking and diving and deflections need to stop. Measures that hold out the prospect of real progress need to commence now, for everybody's sake. Another moral sapping factor is the hollowed-out career structure. Since the great plunder of 2009, posts of responsibility have been as rare as hen's teeth. Therefore, the 500 additional posts of responsibility given in Budget 2024 are to be welcomed. They are a much-needed restoration of some of the posts lost due to the moratorium on the filling of posts. The fact that they are only available from the 1st of September 2024 is a pity. And of course, more is needed in Budget 2025. In conjunction with the Department of Education, it has been agreed that there is no reason for the posts not to be interviewed for in the last term and filled. Members will be ready to start the positions on the 1st of September 2024, but more importantly, members will get paid for those posts from the 1st of September 2024. If your school or Board of Management or your ETB does not advertise the posts, then we need to know why. When considering the recruitment and retention crisis, it is important to realise that it is no longer confined to the second-level sector. As the bulge in the demographic moves to further education into higher education, recruitment is also proving challenging, especially in the apprenticeship area. The recruitment and retention crisis is a direct result of the policy of successive governments of making education do more with less, even as the student numbers have increased. In September 2023, reform changed to redevelopment. The senior cycle reform became senior cycle redevelopment. The proposed move to teacher-based assessment was halted by the Department of Education due to concerns in relation to AI. This was accompanied by an announcement that the senior cycle redevelopment would be accelerated with an immediate consultation on 5 subjects: physics, chemistry, biology, classical subjects and Arabic, to completed by the end of the year. These are subjects to be rolled out in the school year beginning 2025. Other changes were announced, such as the sidelining of the proposed network schools, the rollout of CPD for teachers a year ahead of the introduction of any new subject or specification, and sample papers would be available during this CPD period. All students can have a place in transition year, with a financial package to be made available in schools from September 2024 to facilitate any additional places required. There is to be no change to the allocated current second components of assessment, known as Additional Assessment Components, or AACs. The NCCA has also agreed to provide more detailed specification, including depth of treatment, in the light of the lessons learned from the junior cycle specifications. A lot of what TUI had advocated for senior cycle redevelopment has now been taken on board by the stakeholders. But we must not be complacent. Senior cycle redevelopment will have significant implications for the workload of all teachers. Additional assessment components will lead to almost bespoke teaching and learning for some of our students. In our Congress survey, 50% of respondents believe that schools are not equipped for the additional assessment components or for the revived 5 specifications already published. 66% indicated their schools do not have the facilities to introduce drama, film and theatre studies or climate action and sustainable development from 2025-26 as expected. We in the TUI must be prepared to do what it takes to obtain the resources, particularly the time to implement senior cycle redevelopment. Time, colleagues, is the key. Time is a valuable currency that is truly in short supply now. Excessive workload and work intensification are making teachers and lecturers time poor. In every sector, you, our members, state there is an ever-increasing workload and no time to do it. And when time is not available, work intensification occurs, all of which is unsustainable. It constitutes a serious health and well-being issue for many members. The hidden additional work done on top of class contact time is not recognised. The TUI must demand that it be recognised, and we must campaign to this end. Continual, additional, bureaucratic and administrative demands for empty work from all sorts of sources mean accumulating workload and work intensification for teachers. A workload that is unfair, excessive, and unsustainable makes no sense. It's a threat to the system. Members at all levels in the profession need to call a halt and start saying no. The TUI must move forward with policies that give our members back their personal time. Who said it was okay to start correcting copies or exams at 11 p.m. at night, or at the end of your weekend on a Sunday night? When were we asked to sign over the deeds of our private lives and personal time? What number of hours is unhealthy? At a recent conference, research was presented that states that anything over 50 hours can increase the risk of stroke by 35% or heart disease by 17%. If we continue to work the way we are doing, we will become unhealthy. If you suffer burnout, you become useless to your family as well as to your job. Who or what is to blame for this rapid erosion of your personal time? Is it the school, school leaders, Department of Education, or is it you? The union must encourage change at our schools, but you must also do it for yourselves. We must all learn to say no so that we can do our jobs and, more importantly, stay well. As a union, we also need a vision of what our work should entail and a workable strategy. My vision is a 2020 vision for post-primary education. All teachers need a maximum of 20 contact hours with no more than 20 students in any class. We need 2020, and we need to take the demographic benefit to the government, and that's what we need over the next couple of years. We need at Congress to make our policy to reduce the workload to alleviate work intensification, we need something specific to aim for if we are to remain healthy and be able to do our job that we are being asked to do. I urge that at Congress next year, this becomes our policy, a 2020 vision for post-primary education. The TUI rulebook is core to how we conduct our business. Our current rulebook was written at a different time, and many well-intentioned rule changes over the years have given rise to anomalies and contradictions as outlined at last year's Congress. The rulebook needed to be more than updated by degrees or annually. The Executive Committee, as reported last year, decided the best option was to update it in its entirety. This is to be done as far as possible, keeping close to the current rules and eradicating anomalies and contradictions. It will also address issues that are contrary to modern government standards. The process of review and drafting took several months. When completed, the draft was then sent for legal analysis and opinion. This legal advice and opinion has now been received and must be taken on board, which will mean a considerable amount of redrafting. Once this is concluded, we will have a better idea when a special Congress can be held to consider this new rulebook. Until completion of the full process, the current rulebook continues to apply. As you can appreciate, this is proving to be a very complex process and is taking more time than we initially thought. As outlined by the Security Fund today and at Congress last year, we are updating hardware. We've moved into the cloud. We've invested in lots of servers. This is all being completed so that we are in a position to introduce a membership relationship management system. Having commenced this project in 2021, we now have upgraded a lot of what is necessary to use an MRM system. However, unfortunately, in October 23, after several delays with the software development of the system, the practicalities of continuing were called into question. A reassessment of the contract and the deliverables was undertaken. This resulted in a decision by the executive to change the development companies. The executive approved this change to the new provider as the initial provider was unable to supply the initial system as outlined. I'm incredibly grateful to all for the huge effort which has gone into progressing the work on this massive change project for TUI. Let's all look forward to the improvement that it will bring on its completion, hopefully at some stage in 2024. Again, as mentioned by the Security Fund, after receiving planning permission for an A-rated multi-purpose building extension to TUI head office, which will increase our capacity to serve our members and make TUI head office a more usable building, I can report that we expect it to be completed in summer 2024, only 6 months behind schedule. There were several retirements of long-serving TUI staff in 2023. There was a loss of corporate knowledge with these retirements. Breda Hall, who spent her full career with TUI, retired in September. Declan Glynn retired in August after long serving as an Assistant General Secretary. Seamus Lahart, former President and Assistant General Secretary, also retired in June. I am sure you will join me in wishing them well in their retirement and hope they find it fulfilling and enjoyable. The retirements meant that there were resulting vacancies to be filled. After a competitive selection process, Liz Daly was appointed to fill the position vacated by Breda Hall. Also, following a competitive selection process, Leslie Conville was promoted to the Executive Officer role vacated by Liz. She now has responsibility for governance and Congress. Following a competition conducted in accordance with the requirements of Rule 68, Owen Griffin and Liz Farrell were appointed to permanent positions as Assistant General Secretary. The appointments were made due to the retirements. Both positions are for ratification at this Congress. I would like to thank all TUI staff for their dedication and efforts on behalf of TUI and its membership. Liz Farrell resigned as President on the 1st of September 2023 to start in the position of Assistant General Secretary of the TUI. David Waters, as per rule, became President of the TUI on the 1st of September. Vivian Keenan was elected Vice President from the Executive to last until the 1st of July 2024 as laid down in our rulebook. I know you join me in offering them congratulations and best wishes in their roles. Therefore, Martin Marjoram ceased to be the immediate past president on the 1st of September. Therefore, he was no longer a member of the Executive Committee. Martin led the union through one of its most difficult periods in the pandemic and did so in a highly professional manner. The decisions taken at that time by the TUI were the most important made by the union at any time. I thank him for his service and wish him and his family well. The current Executive Committee responded to the challenges and issues as they arose and made decisions in good faith throughout the year. They were designed to serve the best interests of the members. This involves a serious investment of their time, which benefits the members and the long-term evolution of the TUI. I thank them for their efforts and their commitment to the membership of the union. All 4 TUI-endorsed candidates were elected to the Teaching Council. Clodagh O'Hara for the Community and Comprehensive constituency, Ursula O'Connor for the ETB Midlands and North West constituency, Noel Cronin and Claire Markey both in the ETB Dublin and South constituency. I offer my congratulations to all the candidates and thank them for putting themselves forward. And thank you, delegates, for your support for these candidates. I want to pay special tribute to the RMA members who worked extremely hard during the Teaching Council elections campaign. I also want to note especially Clodagh's achievement, being elected by a margin of 36 votes in her constituency, which is always a closely fought constituency. TUI candidates have now won the seat for the 3rd time in a row. The ETB elections will now take place in the coming term. I would urge each branch to meet in their regional groups during Congress to agree their candidates for these up-and-coming important staff elections. I would also like to commend the Retired Members Association for the excellent service they provide and support they give to those of our retired colleagues who are in difficulty. The RMA is a valuable part of the TUI family. The Principal and Deputy Principal Association continues to ensure that the perspective of the TUI is rounded and broad-based. It makes us cognizant of the range of difficulties facing all our members, especially in post-primary sectors. The insights of the PDA have been especially useful in the context of the pandemic. The associated assessment models and related challenges that occurred. I would like to pay particular thanks to the work of Adrian Power, the President of the PDA during these times, for his invaluable help and advice when dealing with those issues. His term of office concluded this year. The Adult Education Officers Association brings expertise and advice to the union, which assists us in dealing with the further and adult education sector and equips us with a fuller knowledge of what's occurring in that area. Branch officers and TUI actives who are delegates here today, you are the core of the TUI. Without you, we have no union. We must make sure we have active members ready to advise and support TUI members. Recruitment is key to our success. The fact that non-union membership is growing faster than membership is concerning in our workplaces. We need recruitment to be a key issue in all branches and workplaces if we are to maintain a membership-based TUI run by the members for the benefit of members. I want to thank you all for your commitment to the union and its members and hope you have an enjoyable Congress. The TUI is made up of teachers, lecturers and other educators across 2nd level, 3rd level, further adult education, which gives TUI a breadth of expertise and experience that gives us a unique understanding of the Irish public education system. An understanding that your President, David Waters, will share with 2 government ministers over the next few days. The TUI in the coming year will strive to protect and represent our members and their interests effectively and professionally. Finally, I'm sure you're delighted with that, I am pleased to report that, as you can see from the annual accounts presented by the Treasurer, the finances of the Union are in good order. I wish you well in your deliberations on motions before you. I know you will consider them in a coherent and strategic manner. You will through this Congress show that TUI is fit and able to meet the challenges over the next year. It's my privilege as General Secretary to present this annual report of 2023 to Annual Congress 2024.